Meeting is being recorded.
If everyone could put your name and organization in the chat, that would be appreciated. And then I'm gonna try to manage the chat for you, Ben, so that you don't have to do two things.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Let's see. All right, can you all see the screen?
Yes.
Am I sharing the presentation mode or the other one?
You have notes also in next slide, so you can
Okay,
switch that if you wish.
yeah, switch that up. All right, how is that?
Good.
Okay. Eric, could you manage, are you able to admit people as well?
Yeah, I'm admitting people as they pop up.
Okay. All right, well, we'll get started. Sorry for that rough getting set up, but yeah, appreciate you all being here. Thank you for taking the time out of your day to attend this training. I'm Ben Scott. I'm with Neighbor Impact. I'm the Unhoused Services Data Coordinator, and although I work for Neighbor Impact, I serve on behalf of the Homeless Leadership Coalition and the Continuum. Today we are covering the pit count and specifically the unsheltered side of that. And so if you're here, you're going to get information on how we plan to carry out the pit count. Yeah, let's get started. So the first thing I want to do is cover kind of the details around the 2024 pit count. A lot of you have done this before in our experience, so this might be a review, but it's a good practice just to kind of review all this background and go over these details. So this is the what, when, who, and why of the pit count. The rest of the presentation will focus more on the how and how we're planning on carrying out a successful pit count this year. So what is the point in time count? It is a single night census of individuals experiencing homelessness, and it includes both unsheltered and sheltered individuals. I'll get into the definition around sheltered and unsheltered on the next slide. But for now, we'll move on to when. So HUD requires that the pit count be conducted biennially and in the last 10 days of January. That's kind of the general guidance. As a continuum, we've decided to conduct the pit count January 23rd, 2024. So that is the night of the pit, which means that all of the surveys will be conducting all the information, and that snapshot is based on where individuals were on the night of the 23rd. That being said, we are approaching this and conducting the actual surveying of individuals and collecting this information over an expanded period of time. So we have the full beginning the night of the pit through Monday the next week. So Tuesday through Monday, we're actually going to be collecting that information, but all of that information and all those surveys will be referencing the actual night of the 23rd. This kind of scheduling was by design. We wanted to give the weekend for our street outreach teams to reach some areas that we don't maybe typically get to. And then we also have that Monday to regroup and have a weekday to kind of address any gaps in coverage for the region that we might see. Who is involved in the PIT? Well, we have the survey participants. So again, that's individuals and families experiencing homelessness within our continuum of care, our region, which is Crook, Deschutes, and Jefferson counties, as well as the Confederated Tribes of Warm Springs. I also wanted to include you all, the survey administrators. We have a lot of service providers and community partners that are doing a lot of work to make this happen. So I wanted to acknowledge you. Thank you all for being involved in this. Yeah, without you, this wouldn't be possible. Why are we conducting a PIT count? Well, for one, it is a HUD mandated requirement. But beyond that, this data is kind of the best single snapshot of what homelessness looks like in our community. You know, we do collect information through our data system in HMIS, but this point in time count really gives us the most complete picture of homelessness for, although it's, you know, just a single point in time, it really, the effort that we all put into this to get as complete a census as possible gives us that picture. And that picture allows state and federal funders to kind of make decisions on how they're allocating their money. So it's to our benefit to have this be as accurate as possible. And then additionally, we use this data to help shape how we're addressing and how we're spending and the funding that is allocated to us. So yeah, this information is very important for strategizing on what we want to do to address homelessness within our community. So as I said a second ago, we wanted to touch on the definition and the difference between sheltered and unsheltered individuals. Sheltered individuals are families or individuals living in supervised, and that can be either publicly or privately operated shelters designed to provide temporary living arrangements. So this includes our congregate shelters, transitional housing, and jails. There may be some other institutions that fall in there, but for the most part, that's what we're looking at is our emergency shelters and transitional housing. Unsheltered is defined as individuals residing in a place not meant for habitation. This can be outside on our BLM lands, national forest, in cars, abandoned buildings, or recreational vehicles without hookups. So all the background, the who, what, why, when, that is what we've covered so far. I want to get into the how now. So how we're conducting this, what is our methodology? There's really two data systems that we're using for the count. One is our HMIS instance, which is a WellSky software platform, which is more important for the sheltered count. I'm including it here just so we have a full picture of what's happening for the PIT. And then Counting Us is the other software platform, which will be much more important for the unsheltered group here today. Just to touch briefly on the HMIS workflow, this is again more relevant for shelters, but we're asking that folks who are shelters who are already set up in the HMIS system collect the data that way. It's just to help them avoid double entry of data. It's already required by funding in a lot of instances, so we thought it best to go this route. And the workflow is kind of standard for shelters. If you are kind of involved in both counts, the sheltered and unsheltered count, this is relevant for you, but if not, and since this is the unsheltered call, we'll kind of speed through this part a little bit. Yeah, so standard entry and exit in the system, and then there's a final supplemental questionnaire that matches what you all will be doing in counting us. And that's to make sure that we're consistent on our the questions we're asking so that we can compare between the two populations, unsheltered and sheltered. We're asking the same questions. All right, getting into the more important piece for you all as unsheltered people who will be targeting more unsheltered population, our street outreach groups and people out in the community. The software we'll be using for this unsheltered count is Counting Us. Counting Us is a survey software with a long history of use for the pit. Simtech Solutions has worked really closely with HUD. They actually work directly with them, and this software is used across the country for many years for this specific use case. There's several versions, really any device and platform. There's an option for you. So there's mobile versions available for free through the iOS Apple Store, as well as the Google Play Store if you're using an Android device. And you can always use this just on a computer or really any device that you can connect to the internet, because there is a browser-based version. And that's available just on any internet browser. If you go to counting.us, it will be the same user interface, the same workflow, just a different way to access the software. All right, so getting into the setup, you will need to register in order to participate and have your surveys be counted. This is pretty straightforward. You'll enter your information, click register, and then you'll be able to choose a count. Yeah, so once you're registered, you will, if it's your first time, you will need to then log in. And then this is an example of someone who was set up in the past, which is a lot of you. This is set up for the 2021 count. So if you're signing in and that was the last count you participated in, you'll need to hit change count. Once you've done that, you'll select join new count, and then you'll be prompted to enter a setup key to so that you can't just join any account that you choose. You kind of have to have this inside knowledge of this code that gets you into our specific account, and that code is CTLOR24. It is case sensitive, so capital C, capital O, others are lowercase, and then you should be able to hit join count, and you should be set up. This is there are offline functionalities that work when you're actually administering the survey, but you will need internet access to actually register. So do this beforehand. Don't do it when you're out in the field the first time you go to give a survey. And we want you to be familiar with the software as well as you go out. So another reason to do this beforehand. All right, so at this point you're set up with the actual software, you're registered, you're in the right count, it's time to do a survey. So first thing you do is click Get Started, and then you will select the type of survey you want to complete. There are three options: unsheltered survey, unsheltered person observation tally, and the sheltered survey. I won't spend a lot of time on the sheltered survey, although it is relevant because you might run into people that under special circumstances you do a sheltered survey. But for now, the unsheltered survey is if you encounter someone who on the night of the pit was sleeping outdoors in a place not meant for human habitation. And this includes, you know, cars, abandoned buildings, recreational vehicles without hookups again. The unsheltered person observation tally, we really want to be a last resort. So this is for folks who either are unable or completely refusing to fill out the survey. If folks are refusing some questions on the survey, at that point you're already in the survey, so just do as best you can to get as much information as possible. But we want to let people refuse specific questions and even refuse the survey if they so choose. And if they do choose that, then we would do an observation tally. It's essentially just a count, so it doesn't give us as much information, and that's why we prefer the full survey if possible. Again, if you're the circumstances you'll be filling out a sheltered survey are probably more edge cases for this group, so we won't go through that, but you would just select sheltered survey if you find yourself in a circumstance in which that's an appropriate option. So once you select the survey, you'll be prompted to choose individual or household, and at that point, if you pick household, you'll need to know the number of adults and children. If you have done a sheltered survey, these are set up by project type and organization. If you're doing an unsheltered survey, it will skip this step. The next step will be to record your location. This is really important for our analysis afterwards. We really want to have accurate, not necessarily pinpoint accurate location information, because we are not targeting individuals at all from this information. It's all for our post-survey analysis, how we roll up the data and how we report, how we aggregate our data geographically and look at numbers by town and county and things like that. So we really want to emphasize you getting good, at least some information. So there are three ways to do that. One is allowing your device to share the GPS location with the app. That's this first picture. Second one, you can manually scroll through the Google Map interface and drop a pin. And then the third option is just to enter a street address. Get as close as you can with the street address if you're doing this. If you need to, if there's not a street address available, city and state at the very least. And then if you have any doubts about capturing location, there's also, before you submit your survey, there's a note. If you want to drop general location, like this was at a China hat, or really any other context that can help us there. If you have any doubts, please utilize that function as well. So once you're through all those steps, you will move on to conducting the actual survey. The first question will ask, have you already been surveyed? If the answer is yes, the question will end there. If someone is not, or the survey will end there because we don't want multiple surveys for the same person. Kind of in that same vein, this is, we're taking folks at their word, so they could, say they haven't, but they have, not remember. We want a way to be able to deduplicate after we get the data. So while we're allowing people to refuse to answer questions, we want to get some identifying information so that we can deduplicate. So if people are hesitant to give names, just use the first 3 letters of each name, first and last, or initials, whatever you can get that helps us after the fact deduplicate some of those entries. And try to get as much information as possible. Don't leave any fields blank. If someone does refuse a question, just put that in rather than leaving it blank. And then finally, you will submit the survey. Again, right here, you'll have the option to enter any notes right before you submit. Any added context you think is helpful to explain the context around this individual survey. Then you will be able to submit the survey. If you're not connected to data or Wi-Fi, you can save a draft, and that will go into this draft folder here that looks like an inbox, and that icon will track how many you have in that inbox. Once you're back connected to internet, you can click into that drafts box, and you'll need to select the individual drafts there, open them up, and then submit once you do have that internet connection. So on the week of the pit, we'll be monitoring through the Counting Us command center. It allows us to see geographically where people are conducting surveys and just kind of make sure we have coverage. So we'll be here monitoring that and available for support. What we'd like to do is when your teams are out in an area, and if you've kind of wrapped up, say, a given canvassing of a specific area, if you can check in, just give me a call so that we can make sure that your surveys are actually populating in the area that you are. Again, this is to ensure we're getting good location data. When you register, there's a phone number that you're using. This is the phone number that if we see data coming in that we have questions about, we might want to reach out to you and just verify or check in. So we'll be using that phone number that you put in the registration. So please make that a phone number that you're actually using, that you'll have on you during the week of the count. If you have any questions during that week, this is my phone number and email. Reach out if you need support or have questions or have any doubts about if your data is getting into the system. If you have any questions about that draft functionality or ensuring that that's working for you, don't be shy to reach out, and we will try to support you. This is more support up to over the next couple weeks getting ready for the pit. We have a handful of iPads left through Neighbor Impact to loan out to you all. If you're interested, please email me as quickly as possible. We have kind of a tentative reservation that we might need to adjust if it looks like more people are interested, but reach out as quickly as possible if you think you would need an iPad. We'll be hosting office hours starting next Tuesday. And then it'll be Tuesday and Thursday the following 2 weeks from 2 to 3 p.m. You can drop into that call and I'll be there. We can answer questions. Whatever questions you might have, we'll try to get them addressed as well as possible. Less relevant for this group, but non-HMIS shelters. If you didn't see your name in that project setup list within Counting Us, let us know and we can get that set up for you. There is a confidentiality agreement to use the Counting Us app, and we'd like to have that filled out by you by January 16th. So that's 1 week prior to the pit, the night of the pit. Yeah, get that, if you can get that filled out as quickly as possible and set up your Counting Us account. Right now it's in test mode, so I actually saw a couple folks from the call yesterday enter some test surveys, and I'm seeing them populate in the regional command center application. We want to test things as much as possible, make sure things are working both for you and what the data we're seeing come in. So let's break as much as we can before the actual pit so it doesn't break during that critical time period where we're trying to actually collect all that information. Yeah, I've done a lot of talking now to this point, so now it's your turn. If we have any questions, you can put them in the chat or maybe raise your hand and we'll try to work through as many questions as we can with the time remaining.
Hi. Hi, Ben. I was with you guys yesterday. So my question today, you were talking about office hours and drop in the call. I'm not quite sure what you're talking about when you say drop in on the call and office hours. I mean, so it's an online meeting that you're having 2 to 3?
Yep. So it should be on the HLC website, but they're just Zoom calls just like this one. You can just, during the time, you should be able to click the link and just join the meeting. Yeah.
Okay, so could someone put in the chat the HLC website name, because I'm not familiar with that. And then my other question is, on the first night, the 23rd, what is the start time for that and the planned end time that night?
Yeah, that's a good question.
I can answer that question if it's helpful. Ben.
Yeah,
I don't know
please
if
do.
it is. Okay. Hi, this is Eliza with the Homeless Leadership Coalition. So the start time for the 23rd, it really, if you're going to be doing any counting on the 23rd, there really isn't a specific start time. It's just whenever you're doing the surveys, you would just ask the question of like, where are you staying tonight? So anytime on the 23rd. So that's the difference in like asking the question. If you're doing a survey on the 23rd, you'd ask, where are you sleeping tonight? Versus if you do it on the 24th through the 30th, you're going to ask, hey, where did you stay on the night of the 23rd?
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to, so Eric put in the chat, I'm just kind of following up with some of these things. There's a lot of questions about city and county specific data allocation. Yeah, I guess Eric answered that. We don't share the location data of individuals or groups with the public. This is, again, it's all for this post-survey analysis. Anything that is reported out will be done by like these aggregate geographic areas. So probably county and city level.
Yeah, so for example, even recently the Homeless Leadership Coalition were asked, is there any sense of how many folks are living unsheltered outside of Sisters on BLM land, in the woods, on Deschutes National Forest land, that kind of thing? And we wouldn't say, in response to that, we wouldn't say there's 57 people off of this Forest Service road. We would say, in the pit data, the Sisters location data that we gathered indicates that there are 350 people living in or around the city of Sisters during the point in time count. That's how we would quantify that data. And that is for their safety, but it's also so that service providers, like many of you, can use that information to say, I anticipate I might serve 350 unhoused, unsheltered people in Sisters in a given year or during the winter. And so it's for those purposes only. And when people do ask us specific questions about where camps are located, we do not ever give out that information. We do not give out client information. And there are, I think, a lot of concerns around that when it comes to the pit count and our clients that we're gathering information about. So if you're experiencing that with your clients, you can reassure them that this information is confidential, that no one is going to come looking for them, that no one is tracking them, because that is the truth.
Ben, this is Wes Myers. I appreciate you holding this training. I came in about 6 minutes late, so I apologize and ask, do I voluntarily opt into a sheltered and non-sheltered role here? I don't know where to start.
Yeah, that's a good question. The shelters, it will mostly be staff working in the shelters. And then for the unsheltered folks, I think we have some street outreach teams that are going to be going out. Eric or Eliza, do you have any feedback
Yeah, if you guys are interested in volunteering and you haven't had someone contact you about where to do that, if you just drop your email in the chat, I can send you guys all an email. Thank you for asking that question.
Yep.
And Katie, Hassani, is it possible for us to get a link to your street outreach committee meeting that is going to take place on Monday, so we can post it on the website in the events calendar, and then that way folks can join in as guests to that committee meeting?
So I can drop the link in the chat.
Okay, thanks, Hassani.
Yeah, no problem.
Ben, I have another question, if I may. I was wondering about testing if I guess I was doing unsheltered with the app. I guess one of your last slides talked about breaking things, right? I didn't quite capture or make a connection, but you want to make sure the data is being entered. So did you say if we do use the Counting Us app, there's a way that I can test I go out tomorrow, complete a sham survey and test it with you to verify that it's working?
Yeah, that was just to say that we want to make sure we're like catching the wrinkles and the kinks in the system before we do it. Yeah, if you fill out a survey, maybe shoot me an email or something, and then I can follow up and make sure that it came through for you. I don't know if we want to do that for everyone. That might be a lot, but I can see. I mean, I already know. If it says 2024 at the top, and you see that test mode, you're in the right survey, and you should be able to like see the surveys you've completed too. So yeah.
Okay,
Did
so
that answer your question? Sorry.
well, you're saying I can do that if I want, but you're also hesitant because you don't want to be overwhelmed. So I'm not, so it sounds like I'll opt not to do that. I'll just make sure I see 2024 in the top of the survey. I mean, that's
Yeah,
cool.
it's more for you all testing it. If you see like things that might be kinks or wrinkles in the actual survey as you're filling it out, or you have questions about it too, it might not even be an issue with the software. It might be just like making sure you know the interface, and if you have any questions about that, maybe reach out.
Okay. Thank you.
Ben, I just saw that Hassani Davenport is sending out a link for the meeting on Monday, January 8th. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct.
And what time is that meeting on Monday?
It's at 10 a.m., I think.
Okay, and who are you with? What agency?
Oh, I'm with J. Barjay Youth Services, but I'm also the HLC Outreach Committee co-chair.
Okay, great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions on?
Yeah, I just have a general question. So, what is the next steps kind of thing, you know? So, as a individual, I'm going to be working in Sisters. I don't know who I'm going to be working with. I think I'm supposed to contact, I'm not sure who I'm supposed to contact. Am I to join this street meeting, or am I to join another meeting? In other words, you know, where do I find out what I do next?
Susan, can I answer that for you?
Please.
Okay, David Fox is coordinating the team in Sisters.
David Botts.
David Fox with
Oh, okay, okay.
Deschutes County Behavioral Health. So you just might shoot him a text to let him know you want to be on that team.
Okay, I thought I saw his name on here tonight. So he was on this. Are you still here, David? Because, you know, if we put our emails in here in the chat, should I give him my email in the chat or give it to you, or?
Yeah,
Because
Susan,
I don't have his email.
if you put your email in the chat, I can connect you guys through email. I'm happy to
And
do
this
that.
is Katie, right?
This is Eliza Wilson.
Eliza.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I
Yeah.
gave my email to Katie, so I'll give it to you.
Oh, great. Okay.
I'll give it to you, Eliza.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And that's all I need to do then, right?
Yep.
Okay,
That's great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Does anyone else have any questions?
I think Elizabeth wants to give her your email also. Elizabeth Kirby.
Great.
I'll shut up now.
Eliza, though, this is Wes Myers. I'm going to follow up on Susan. I appreciate, Susan, you and I might be in the same realm. Like, So I work with Tim and Sharon here and Lynn. So there's several from Shepherd's House, but I don't know Ben. I guess I'll ask Ben as moderator here. Is there a preference? Do you want direction for a volunteer, or do I just say, hey, I'll work with, and I'll take direction through Tim and Sharon as an example?
I think and correct me if I'm wrong, Liza or Eric, I think as far as like street outreach, like out in areas, we're kind of hoping to have that be people who have built rapport with the folks in those communities and those encampments. But if you're looking to contribute and like get involved, I think that'll be more like case by case and on a, you know, locally, whoever your partners are, and working with those folks to see how you can plug in what their events are the week of the pit. I know there's a lot of kind of things going on where we're trying to get folks from the community in to say like meals and kind of things like that in different locations. So that's going to be more of a local, I guess, working with those providers in your community. Eric, Liza, do you
Yeah.
want to add
Yeah,
anything?
I think that's a good point. Wes, if you're already in contact with Shepherd's House and they need help during their outreach, like their share van needs help, and you already have contact with them and feel comfortable reaching out to them directly, then you are more than welcome to do that. Or if you don't have a specific thing that you'd like to do, then I'll send out an email to all of you and just say, hey, like we need a volunteer to help with this or that. And really, I'm going to try to send out an email by tomorrow, but then as like the time comes closer, we'll probably have more specific things that are needed. And we are doing some community outreach events. And so it may be, because the surveys are more successful if there's rapport and like the people know each other, it may be that we have folks help serve food or deliver food or deliver supplies, or I know a lot of volunteers have done like the count at the family kitchen. So because people regularly go there and there's different folks there, so it wouldn't be as like alarming to have a new person reaching out to them like in that space than like in like a camp setting. So yes, what Ben has said is correct. So if you have somebody that you're already in contact with, I would keep contacting them, but I'll also send an email to you guys.
Thank you.
So then I noticed that Louis Blanchard with Sisters Cold Weather Shelter was on this. Louis, are you still on? Because his group has been in contact with our unhoused for quite a while. And so I'm getting the impression from what this recent discussion is that since I live in Sisters and I'm not an individual who's been in contact at all with the unhoused, I would be contacting Louis. Is that a correct assumption?
Well, let's let Louis respond to that. Go ahead.
Hear me?
Yep.
Yeah, louder,
Okay.
please.
Sorry about that. Let me get the speaker up a little bit higher for you. So we had an outreach meeting yesterday. David Fox will be heading the team.
Okay.
Jeremy Fields also going to collaborate with him and kind of select the areas that we will go out in teams with. And again, with so many of us, and Dana McNeese, obviously she's very familiar with a lot of our unhoused here and around Sisters. So my guess, Susan, is that we will probably have a team get together, how we want to go out in particular areas geographically, and those that might want to do, the food banks here locally, how that's going to be coordinated. I'm sure David has an idea. We're going to just take his lead on that. One other thing that I think might allow us to get better information too was someone had shared in our outreach meeting yesterday that in the past, we'd even given a little gift card, as small as it may be, $5 coffee or something from McDonald's. Sometimes that can get you some pretty good information as well from the participants of the survey. So I hope that answers your question. I'm going to leave it to David to try to set up a time for us before the survey starts here in Sisters, and so we can get together and get to know one another better.
Thank you.
And I would just urge everyone who is participating in the Unsheltered count to touch base with Hassani Davenport and Katie DeVito, who chair the Street Outreach Committee. Try to attend that meeting on Monday, just so that we can get some good kind of concept of where every community is going to be conducting their outreach on which days, because it's a week long and we want to know who's going to be in Sisters on what days, where are you going to be at. For Crook County, if there are folks who can volunteer there, I know Amber would love some more support in Crook County, and that historically has been a challenge to, because Prineville is a good distance away from the other cities here in Central Oregon, that type of thing. And though deconflicting those efforts to conduct the unsheltered pit count will go a long way of alleviating the burden that this is, because it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work to get done. It's a lot of work to ensure that we're getting an accurate count. And to do that, we just got to work together. And Hassani and Katie have done a lot of work already. And there have been some meetings leading up to this training that have been to kind of focus this. There are some incentives. There are some folks who have signed up for incentives already. Eliza, can you speak to the incentives?
Yeah, I don't know if everyone got the point in time count newsletter from the HLC. If not, I'll try to link it in the chat. So if you are leading a community effort, or you know the person who is, and they haven't filled out the survey to say what kind of incentives would be best in your community, we've only, I think, so far had 3 responses, and one of them was in Portland, and we will not be fulfilling that that response. So we had one for Warm Springs already, and I think the other one was for like China Hat. So it wasn't even for like a specific area. So I don't know that we have one, and I haven't checked this morning. I don't think we have a response for what would be the best incentives in Sisters. In Redmond, we have that answer. Crook County submitted one. Okay, great. So if not, I'll reach out to the folks who are leading it. If we don't have them by like this afternoon, I'll reach out to folks individually and just ask. But so we will be having incentives like the $5 gift cards to give to folks who are willing to do the surveys.
Great discussion. Is there any other questions about the pit count or about how we're going to coordinate these efforts?
So just to tag on to what Eliza was talking about, would it be helpful if some of us went to like our local coffee shops and said, would you like to donate us incentive for this count? And if they're willing, then what, give them your number, Eliza, or how would we do that?
Yeah, I think if in Sisters, that would be a helpful thing. I think that we always want the incentives to be something that they can use in their community. And like Sisters, Prineville, those different communities, like a Safeway gift card wouldn't be great in Prineville because there isn't a Safeway in Prineville. And so we try to, so I think that if that is something that you could, do in Sisters, I think that'd be great. But we'll talk to David and Sisters to see if there's any plans, just to make sure there's no duplication of efforts there. The individual communities are really doing a lot of planning. And then as Eric said, the outreach committee is kind of mapping like, where is there anywhere we're missing? So we can talk more about that, Susan.
But that's a good point, Susan. If Susan or if anyone else on this training takes it upon themselves to go to one of your local businesses or grocery store in order to try to get some buy-in from those community members to support this effort, you can have them email us at info@cohomeless.org. I put it in the chat. that goes to the executive committee for the HLC, and we're all hands on deck for this effort. So we'll be, willing to reach out to these businesses, to these community members, to try to support the count any way we can. So please direct them there, or if you just get their contact information, you can send an email to us, and then we will do our best to try to close the loop and get as many incentives as we can to the street outreach teams to conduct the count. Because Lewis's point is correct. We tend to have the best participation when we can offer some type of incentive.
Any other questions about maybe the app or anything along those lines?
All right, close it up.
Yeah. Okay, well, we're closing down a little early, but if there's no other questions, I think this was a good call. Some of these questions outside the logistics of the app and the technical stuff were really clarifying for me too. So thank you for all your questions. And yeah, if you join one of the upcoming office hours, I'll try to help you out with any of the more technical details on counting us, things like that. But otherwise, thank you all for attending, and have a great rest of the day. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ben.
Thanks, Ben.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Ben.